Hi there everyone, it's Misty here from TheJollyFatElf. Welcome to another week of cards here in my 2019 holiday card series. So this week we are focusing on one layer scene cards. Now we're not doing one layer cards per se, but we're gonna make scene cards that are one layer. So we're not gonna have any die cuts, we're not gonna do anything like that. We're going to be building scenes on one sheet of paper, and then we'll be adding it to a piece of cardstock. Now, if you are using something like the Gina K Designs thick, I can't remember what it's called, but that cardstock, it doesn't bleed through. So because I'm going to be doing some coloring with my stamping blends today. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do this week. So today's first scene is going to be using the Holly Jolly Christmas Cling Stamp Set from the 2019 Stampin' Up! Holiday Catalog. Now, I am not one who stamps, makes a card off camera and then makes a card on camera. But I was kind of playing with my layout, and this is what I kind of came up with. So initially, when I was thinking of this stamp set, I thought that Santa Claus could be right by the stockings because we're going to create a fireplace. But unfortunately, the stockings are way bigger than Santa. So Santa is actually going to go, like he's going to be out in a window. And then we're going to have the stockings hanging from a mantle in front of a fireplace. Now, I am not an artist. I'm not a Sandy Almock. I'm not someone, with a lot of artistic talent. But we're going to create a scene here, and it's going to be kind of like this. So that is it for real-time Misty. I'm going to send it over to voiceover Misty because I have a feeling this is going to take me forever. We'll see. Like I said, I always do these. I design on the fly on camera. So I'm sure once I get it done, I can reproduce it pretty simply. So let's get started. So future me was really correct because this card took me forever. Of course, I also had to start off 3 or 4 times or redo it 3 or 4 times. But anyway, I'm going to show you the finished version, and I love this card. Oh my gosh. So first of all, I'm starting off by cutting off some Eclipse masking tape. I get this from Amazon. I wanted to make sure that I had a straight edge. And then if you have a window die, you don't need to do this, but I don't have a window die. So I'm using this die to cut out some of that masking paper. And then I'm going to be adding that to this card layer. This card layer measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And of course, I will be trimming this down. But this is going to be my window. So if you had a window die, you wouldn't necessarily have to go through all the steps that I'm about to. But if you don't, this is a way that you can do it. So I'm going to be using those as a guide, and then I'm going to be stamping the Santa and the stockings using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And there you can see on the left that I messed up. So here I went ahead and used the rectangles that I cut out of that die as a guide. So that rectangle on the bottom is going to be the bottom of my window. And then this piece on the bottom again is just protecting that bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this with Memento Tuxedo Black. And unfortunately, it's going to be a little off center, but that's okay. I like how this one looked in the end. It worked out okay. I am going to be coloring with a blend of my Stampin' Blends and my Copic markers. So yeah, and you don't even have to have it look like this. If you don't have a window die, you could have just used a rectangle. But I really wanted it to look like someone was looking through a window and saw him outside. So I'm going to start by using my pencil, and I'm just using my pencil to draw in some lines. I wanted to do this first before going in with my pen. And this is just a erasable pencil that I got off of the Dollar Tree, I'm sure. And I'm just going through and adding the lines. So this is going to be the edge of my window. And then I'm adding in the lines for the panes of the windows. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to go ahead and draw in a fireplace. And this is going to actually be really, really simple. It's going to look like it's a lot, but it's actually not going to be too bad. So I am using a T-square ruler, which is a must in my craft room. Seriously, gotta have a T-square ruler. So earlier I went ahead and stamped and cut out mask for all of my stockings. And the reason why I did this is because my stockings are going to be in the forefront, and then they're going to be in front of my fireplace. So everything that you want in the front, you're going to stamp first and then mask it, and then everything in the back will end up behind it. So I'm just kind of using my pencil here to draw in my mantle, and then I'm going to use it to draw in my fireplace. Now, I was hoping that I had a brick stencil, but I actually don't. I used to, but I no longer have one. So I ended up drawing in my own bricks. So here I'm just going back over and fixing some of my lines. So I am going to be drawing, I didn't measure these, they're about probably 1/4 of an inch apart, and I'm just going all the way across. I did draw in a rectangle at the bottom right hand corner that is serving as my firebox. So once I've drawn these horizontally, I'm going to go through and I'm going to draw these vertically as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a line every other horizontal line to make up the grout or the mortar lines for my brick. And this actually didn't take me quite as long as I thought it would. I've sped it up to 400 times faster than what it would normally be. But once you've got this part done, I think you're set. And another thing that you can do, once this card is finished, before you add any embellishment, you can go to a color copier and copy it and make some more. So that's a hint for you. If you make a card that you really, really love, but that's really, really time consuming, but you really want to use it, there you go. So I am going to be using my blend. So here I'm trying to figure out what color I want for my brick. So I went with dark cherry cobbler, light cherry cobbler, and dark real red. So that is the color combination I am using for my bricks. Don't be afraid to blend your colors together, play with them, figure them out. You want to make sure that you have a dark, a mid-tone, and a light. You could also just do a dark and a light. It's completely up to you. But initially, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to add in the color, and then trying to leave a white space so I, have a way to put in some mortar. And then you're going to see in a minute, I'm going to give that up and just color all the way through. And then, So this is what took the most time. The coloring took the most time. But again, if I were going to recreate this card, like if I wanted to send this card out, like if this was going to be my card, I would just go ahead and use a color copier to scan it and then just print out some cards, because it is a 1-layer card. Did I mention that I'm doing 1-layer cards, 1-layer scenes this week? I don't think I mentioned that. So here I am using an archival pen. These are from American Crafts. You can find these at Tuesday Morning all the live long day. A Copic multiliner will also work. I think Kelly Latavola uses one from EK Success that she found on Amazon. So any kind of archival pen that will work with alcohol markers will work for you. So here I'm just adding in all of my lines. And again, I'm using this T-square ruler. This is a godsend. I think I got mine from Samus's Stamp 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even longer than that. Whenever Christina Warner showed it for the very first time, I went and bought it like the very next day. So she's been an enabler for about 10 years now. So yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my lines, like I said. So that's my mantle. And then we've got my firebox on the right-hand side, got my brick. Here is my window. So I am using my pen to outline the window frame. I do end up making a couple of little crooked lines, but at the end of the day, if someone can notice that and are paying that much attention, more power to them. And it's really just this line on the very, very bottom, my very last line. There you can see it kind of moves from the left to the right, but I was like, I am not even going to redo this. No, thank you. No, thank you. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get back to coloring my bricks. And you can see here anywhere there's a shadow, I'm going to add the dark cherry cobbler. then come back in with the light cherry cobbler, and then go over it with the light real red. And I really love this color combo. Again, I have a dark tone, a mid-tone, and then a light. So here I am bringing in some browns, and I couldn't decide on, I really wanted some warm browns, but the browns that we have so far in the blends from Stampin' Up! Are more cool. Soft Suede is a little bit more cool. So I wanted something that was more orangey or reddy brown. So I'm gonna be using some of my Copic markers, and here are the colors that I used there. So I'm just trying to create like wood grain here. I don't do the best job. I feel like I did a better job when I was doing my very first card of this holiday card series. And here I made a grievous error. I colored over the mask, and I should not have done that. If you're going to do this, don't do what I did. Luckily, I'm going to go ahead and cover the white part of that. But yeah, so here I'm bringing in just this stamp from Doris. I just wanted a wreath on top of my fireplace. Unfortunately, I should have scooted it over a little bit more because again, my fireplace is off center, but this wreath is centered. So yeah, so here I'm using a pool party blend to color the outside. So it looks like he's like, outside during the day, although he would be outside during the evening, but I didn't want to make it so dark outside. So once I've done that, again, I'm going to bring in some more colors. This is kind of my sheet where I was just testing colors. I'm trying to decide what colors I wanted to use for his bag. Ended up going with the bronze and the ivory marker to color the bag. And then I accidentally colored his hand. But it looks like it's the bag, so I just went with it. I was like, I'm not going to cover it up, and I brought in the stamp set there to kind of help me with that. So I'm using these 3 colors for his black boots, and then of course for his mittens. And again, just some easy, simple shading, nothing too serious. I am using 3 colors, but you could absolutely get away with doing 2 colors. If you have the basic black markers or the smoky slate markers, you could have used those. These are the 3 colors that I'm using for the firebox. I didn't want there to be a fire. I just wanted it to be black. I wasn't in the mood to try to draw flames or to shade it in orange. So this is what I did. And again, I think it got it done. So for Santa's suit, I am using dark real red, dark cherry cobbler, and then Poppy Parade, light and dark. Again, just as long as you have a dark and then a mid-tone and then a light to blend these out. And I wanted a different red than what I used on the fireplace. So I thought this really worked out really well. And the cherry cobbler is quite a bit darker than the real red. So I like how it added that bit of darkness that I really needed. So I'm just going to use the ivory marker to color Santa's face, and then Flirty Flamingo to color his cheeks, and then colored in his mouth. I'm using a C0 to color in his beard and blending that out with a C00. I'm adding some black to his belt. And then this is a gold Sharpie marker that I used to color his belt buckle. And here I was trying to decide on what colors that I wanted for brain. Oh my gosh. the window trim, brain. So luckily I had this scrap piece that I had already worked on, and I was able to test my colors there. And I'm really glad I did, because the colors I initially picked were really, really dark. And initially I thought maybe I would go with dark, but then I didn't want it to really weigh down the scene. So I'm just adding a little bit of shading. I'm not one that likes to shade with grays when I'm shading white, but I decided that this would just be gray instead of white. So that's how I did that. Once I've colored in that window, it's time to color in the walls, and I'm bringing in a couple of greens. First, I'm going to go ahead and darken up those lines. Like you see there, I kind of messed up just a little bit, but fixed it as best as I could. So I'm going to bring in a couple of green to color the wall. It took me forever to decide on a wall color. Initially, I thought I wanted to do like pool party, but then I realized that I did the outside pool party, and I used this green. When Rob and I first got together, he had a house and we painted our kitchen asparagus green, and this is the color that it reminds me of. So I thought this was really, really pretty. And again, it's a different color, and I am going to be bringing in some more greens into this scene. So that's something that you can do. So I'm just putting the darkest color on around the edges, like around where the fireplace is, because that would stand out. And then underneath and around the window casings, because that would stand out as well. So Santa is really coming together. And then again, I'm just kind of playing with some colors to see what I wanted to do. So I'm going to use this E00, I believe is what it is. It's either E00 or E50 to color the wall above the fireplace. I almost thought about doing shiplap, but I decided not to. For the bear, I used the bronze and the ivory marker, and then for the present, I used granny apple green and fleur de flamingo, and then I've used one of the reds for the candy cane. Here I am using the dark and the light what is it called? Tree cobbler to color in that stocking. And here I'm using both granny apple greens, and then I'm going to be using both fleur de flamingos to color in these stockings. And then I'm going around with a gray just to add a little bit of shadow and kind of help those stockings to pop out. I mentioned the other day adding a drop shadow, and that's pretty much what I was doing there. This last one, I'm going to go ahead and color with granny apple green again, and then also fleur de flamingo. You guys know I love some traditional colors, but I also love some non-traditional, and I just think these stockings turned out so stinking cute. I am going to bring in a white gel pen at some point for the stocking, but first I'm going to go ahead and color the poinsettia red. Again, I'm using the same reds that I used on Santa's suit. And then for the snowflake, I'm using the dark and light fleur de flamingo marker. And then for the leaves of the holly or the poinsettia, I'm going to use granny apple green. So if you are new to alcohol markers and you're not ready to make an investment in Copic, I absolutely 100% think that you would want to try these blends from Stampin' Up. They're $4.50 a marker, or you can get the set for $9. They last for a long time. Unless you're just really using a color over and over and over again, you should get at least a season or more out of your markers. So really love them, really easy to use. And here you've seen me through this whole entire card show you how you can blend colors together. So I've decided to use the sentiment from that Holly Jolly stamp set, stamping it in granny apple green. And then I went ahead and brought in some fleur de flamingo for the card base. And of course I had to mess it up, so I had to fix it. And then I'm going to bring in some things to do some finishing. One of the things I wanted to do is bring in this puff paint. So this is a white puff paint. It reminds me of the Marvy liquid applique, but this is actually white rather than ivory. And you just heat it with your heat tool and it puffs up and it makes it look like it's cottony. So I added a little bit more because I missed a couple of spots, but I really, really love how these stockings turned out. This card turned out so cute in person. The pictures really just don't do it justice. So for some finishing touches, I'm going to go ahead and add some Wink Castella because of course there's some shimmer. I used a silver pen there to add the stocking hangers, a white gel pen to add in some snow, and then finally I'm adding some glossy accents to add some shine to the window. If you have the glitter crystal effects that are in the holiday catalog, I think that would be really pretty here too. So yeah guys, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you like this card. Like I said, it's a little bit more involved, but I think sometimes these one-off cards, or like I said, you could always do it and then print it out on paper. I just think they're so much fun and you can be creative, and I only used a few stamps. So thanks so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you Wednesday for another 1 layer seam card. Bye for now.